You very much. I just want to speak briefly about the song by Daniel this morning. Kind of ties in with what we're going to be talking about a little bit with teamwork. Even though my talk kind of strays from teamwork, I'm sorry about that. Things happen. But I happened to be at a practitioner conference many years ago up in Orlando when Daniel was actually introducing that song. And it was just 30 or 40 of us in the room with him and a piano, and he sang that powerful song and just cut straight through the heart of every single one of us. And then noticing on the video here this morning that the Mile High band was supporting him, and just noticing how their contribution made it even more powerful. More than just his voice and one piano, just that extra talent and love tied in. And I see that in a lot of music videos because I spend a lot of time watching music videos these days for some reason, and just noticing how complicated it is and how beautiful it is that these different individuals are able to contribute their own little part. And I sit there and I think, I'm sure glad I never decided I wanted to be a bass guitar player, because they've got the hardest job in the world, mostly just hitting one chord over and over and over again for as long as the song lasts. It's like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And yet you're contributing to this beautiful creation, and most people may not even notice you're part of it. But without it, the song is nothing. The song is nothing. So let's get back to what I actually showed up here for this morning. Second Star to the Right. Some of you may recognize that from a Star Trek movie, and some of you may recognize it from its actual origin, the story of Peter Pan. But the nexus of our story here this morning is taken from the cross-country challenges that our 26th U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt's family outings required, maintaining a given compass course. They would set out across the wilderness on a compass course, and they would all have a compass, and and they could not deviate from that course, either to the left or to the right. And so the siblings, the cousins, the young and old, could go over obstacles, they could go under them, or they could blast their way through them, but they couldn't deviate to the left or to the right. So, one objective, of course, was to force the children to think outside the box and develop unique solutions to unexpected challenges. Another was to impart a sense of confidence by instilling the lesson that life always throws obstacles in our path, but we are always able to offset them with some original thinking. So these restrictions seem pretty daunting, of course, especially for younger family members, until they realized that nothing in the rules said they could not seek help or accept help from others. Getting over a wall, through a thicket, or past a fallen tree is so much easier, you see, and even more enjoyable when there are extra hands on the task. The adventure is embracing challenges, not wishing them away. There are no coincidences, so perhaps it is just evidence of a cohesive universe that a week after I laid down the keel of this talk, I flipped on the New Year's Rose Parade in Pasadena, California, to see their theme this year is the magic of teamwork. And I thought, well, geez, Reverend Glenn, you must be on to something here, because the whole world's talking about it. So, we are born naked and fully dependent on those around us. The only tools at our disposal are the ability to suckle for nourishment and the most highly developed brain in Earth's history, to absorb knowledge from the world of experiences unfolding around us. We are at birth raw, undeveloped potential. We can be taught, we can be trained, and we can be groomed. But to grow and flourish, we must be free to explore. We must have the tools to learn. We must learn to think. We must think beyond what is known. We must know we have just begun to learn. All accumulated knowledge must be available for us to study, test, and prove its value or fallacy without censorship or agenda-driven conviction. Our impulse to explore stems from that highly developed brain we are born with. This brain that is constantly scanning for the who, what, where, when, why, and how of every stimulus it intercepts. These questions are the basis of its growth, the fuel that feeds our engine of discovery. Religious science, the core teaching for centers of spiritual living, encourages unrestricted learning and growth. One of our basic tenets is the belief that we are a bottom-up rather than a top-down philosophy. We believe that the spiritual universe continues to unfold and reveal itself to us individually and collectively from our first thought to our last in this plane of existence. We are not prisoners of a philosophy set in stone and spoon-fed us without question or explanation. I am reminded here of the daughter learning to cook in her mother's kitchen, asking why her mother cut a piece off the end of the beef roast before putting it in the oven. That's how my mother always did it, was her reply, and it always turned out great. Curious and less than satisfied by that answer, the daughter called her grandmother and put the question to her directly. Oh my, the grandmother laughed. Back in those days, I only had one little roasting dish, and I had to cut the meat so it would fit. Allowing ourselves to believe there is nothing new to learn shuts the door for anything new to emerge. The tools of learning include not only the depositories of knowledge, but the mental conditioning to absorb new ideas within a broad range of information. Tools are useless if not maintained and used according to their design. The sharpest bladed ripsaw will disappoint if it is used to cross-cut lumber. Putting our ladder on an apple tree will produce not a single orange for our breakfast meal. Knowing how to think is far more important than the ability to regurgitate a litany of mindless talking points that fill the page but do not address the question. Astute listeners here this morning may remember my downplaying the value of meditation in our directing of spirit with our beliefs for the traveler well down the path of enlightened living, that has not changed. But for those still adjusting and anyone whose path has become overgrown, who's had a sidestep, a backfall, resetting our minds with the basics is always encouraged. Meditation is a tool available to us and always useful when we choose to use it. Now, there are books and videos on the subject with as many right ways as there are creators, but the only method I'm endorsing for you today is whatever works for you. Scented candles, rhythmic music, a secluded setting, bathed in warm sun and gentle breezes, tickling, dancing, melodic chimes may be your ideal meditational experience, but in my world, the mute button on my TV remote can gift me 2 minutes here and 90 seconds there during commercial breaks where I can set my mind free to receive whatever spiritual tidbits are drifting my way. A northbound freight on the East Coast line can guarantee several minutes of nirvana, interrupted only by the awareness of the clickety-clack of the passing train, maintained so as to be ready to return to driver mode when the crossing arms lift away. The value of meditation is not measured in its setting, but how we choose to employ it. We are open and receptive. Are we open and receptive? We're judging every revelation and dismissing those that do not comply with our predefined conclusions. Emerson wrote in Emerson's essays that whenever a mind is simple and receives a divine wisdom, old things pass away. Means, teachers, texts, temples fall. It lives now and absorbs past and future into the present hour. Regardless, you see, of how we experience meditation, the objective is the same. Kick our active mind into neutral. Become simple. Let wisdom cascade upon us like a peaceful, wisping snowfall. Feel the gentle kiss of cold on our cheek, the sensation of water as the snowflake melts in place and runs down our face. Note the brevity of the moment. Appreciate the chaos of the weather leading up to the creation of the snowflake and its finding us, and the reality of the moment's passing as if it never was. When a new wisdom is revealed to us, nothing from our past experience, no temple of unquestionable beliefs survives. We are born anew. Unshackled, set free, bathed in a light we did not know existed or had long forgotten. We enter the unknown. In my notes I have cue the Twilight Zone music, so you can just hear that in your own mind for a moment. Our course is unset, yet to be determined. Neverland and adventure await. Unless we become stuck under some log in our path or hung up on some fence wire in our way. This is when we reach out, either to a friend, a mentor, practitioner, or just some random snowflake of knowledge. We tell Spirit we see ourselves past this log or off this wire, either by a focused series of practice or guided affirmative treatments, or one of those come to Jesus experiences where our intent is instantaneously so clear, Spirit is immediately all hands on deck with a solution. The log or wire is behind us without our even knowing how or whether we were ever really stuck there. We truly are never alone. Spirit is infinite, and whether we choose it or not, always united with our individual expression of it. Spirit always provides that helping hand. It is there when we grasp it. Even the Bible tells us, all things are possible to him that believeth. When we allow ourselves to team up, either with like-minded community, a teacher, a philosophy, or that snowflake of knowledge, we are stronger, smarter, and more nimble. The search for knowledge is unending, not ended. The right, no, the requirement to question the status quo must be instilled in our youth from their first word to their last. We must not silence the question, but welcome it as the gateway to expanding our knowledge. The Roosevelts understood the danger of mental rigidity. By training themselves to embrace the unknown, to develop solutions where none existed, they offered an example of living a spiritual, aware experience. Unrestricted by past edicts handed down from on high that curtailed exploration and growth, they show us how spirit evolves through our constant human choices, demanding more and more development along this ever-revealing path, leading eventually back to our spiritual unity. We live in wonderful time, blessed with technologies only dreamed of in science fiction. Our GPS can take us almost anywhere on the planet, but it errs when announcing we have arrived. Our arrival is only the beginning of our adventure. Why else would we have gone there? The most important lesson we must remember is that everything we know is just the beginning of what there is to know. A a conservative congressman from Oklahoma, whose name I've long forgotten, once said, "God spare me the rantings of anyone who thinks they know the only answer to any question." Although it is unlikely I would agree with much of that congressman's ideals, I can fully support that sentiment. Second star to the right and onward till morning. Neverland and adventure await. Thank you for your attention.